And at this time, I would invite Gary Walker, the former Marquette County prosecutor and the PAC chair for 19 years, to come to the podium and make a few comments.
It takes me a little longer to get up here these days. Mr. Robertson, ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing what that Jedi Master from Star Wars, Obi-Wan Kenobi, called a rent in the Force. The Grand Hotel several years ago banned smoking cigars on the porch. This year, we arrived on the island brought by Sheplers, not Arnold. And Tom Robertson is leaving. I fear we're going to hear an announcement that the Grand Hotel is going to banish the fudge ball. Tom has served his PAAM2 for over 33 years and has been our executive director since 1997. All of us know that. What some of us don't know is that I'm really responsible for that. I interviewed Mr. Robertson when he was in law school, looking for an assistant prosecutor. Had I hired him, he would have moved his wife, Dee, to the frozen north. She might well have left him. Tom would have become despondent, drifted into alcohol, a broken man. But instead, I got a chance to rectify the mistake I made. In 1981, I was on PAC when we hired Tom as an assistant executive director. And then again in 1997, we made Tom our executive director. Tom has guided us through the Scylla and Charybdis, the rocks and shoals of state budget cuts, the legislature's flights of fancy, the felony of the day, or whatever else Lansing seems to produce. And even through that fractious group that has made up the PAAM Board of Directors over the years. As an example of that latter situation, I would like all the past presidents from 1981 forward to please stand. You know who you are, come on. My purpose in having them stand was not to recognize them, for heaven's sake. It was to give you some idea of how difficult a job this man has had over the years. Tom has also contributed greatly to the national service as a prosecutor coordinator and working with the NDAA. Jason Lamb is going to illuminate that in a few moments. PAAM is the penultimate prosecutors association in this country. I was fortunate enough to work a little bit with the NDAA and travel the country and become acquainted with prosecutors associations. PAAM is the model which the others aspire to. And Tom Robertson has a lot to do with that. When Archimedes was expounding on a principle of physics, he said, "Give me a lever long enough and a place to stand, and I shall move the earth." As prosecutors, we are blessed. We get to go to work every day and make a difference. We stand in that kind of place that Archimedes described as being important to exert that leverage. And Tom Robertson, over his entire career, has handed us the levers we need to do that job. Tom has been instrumental in providing us with the education, the knowledge, and more importantly, with the ethos and ethics of our profession. Tom, your wise counsel, dedication to best practices, unimpeachable ethics, and indefatigable energy have served us for 33 years. From PAAC and PAAM, we thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. And exercising a moment of personal privilege, Tom, from me, thank you for your friendship.
Thank you very much, Gary. And we continue to enjoy the slideshow showing Tom through the years.
One with the hair better.
Well, I see the hat helped to cover up some of that lack thereof. At this time, I'd like to invite up to the podium Jason Lamb. Jason is the past president of the National Association of Prosecutor Coordinators, a strong friend and colleague of Tom, and would like to give you the opportunity to say a few words.
Hey, Tom. I didn't know you had hair. Want to say thank you very much for inviting me to visit with you this week here in beautiful Michigan. I appreciated the opportunity to speak yesterday at the conference on best practices, but probably appreciate the opportunity more to speak tonight about Tom Robertson and to give you a little bit of perspective, if you don't know it already, of how vitally important this man, who you have had the pleasure of having as your executive director, how vitally important he has really been to the efforts of prosecutors nationwide. For a very, very long time. There's some truth in the saying, all I ever need to know I learned in kindergarten. There's also an analogy to that to Tom, which is all I ever need to know about being a prosecutor coordinator I learned from Tom Robertson. When I first came into this job, I transitioned from being an elected prosecutor, and I took this job as the executive director of our association. One of the very first people I met in our National Association of Prosecutor Coordinators was Tom Robertson. And I will say this, that it is a very, very unique job if you don't know it, and if you haven't been in it, you probably just don't know how unique it is. I certainly didn't. I had been an elected prosecutor in a county of 25,000 people. I tried the cases I wanted to try. I ran the office, and prosecutors, if they're handling things the right way, they usually run the courtroom for the most part. So apologies to any judges in the audience, but prosecutors generally are used to getting their way most of the time. It's a very different situation when you become the executive director of an association and deal with things like the legislature. Casey and I were talking about that. And so it's a transition. And it's a transition and a shift to kind of running your office, running your county, and learning how to run an organization, bring a group of very opinionated people together. Prosecutors tend to have opinions. Elected prosecutors tend to have more opinions. And getting them to agree on just about anything, except to oppose everything, is somewhat challenging. It's kind of like herding cats. And Tom has a lot of experience, and these cats have claws, by the way. Tom has a lot of experience in this that he's been able to impart to myself and to his other colleagues around the country. There are only 49 other people in the country that have my job. Tom's one of them. So between the two of us, there's only 48 other people in the country that have the jobs that we do and that do what we do. And Tom is one of the best. Tom is very much a model. When Jerry said it, he's absolutely right. Tom takes the model that you guys have, that he's done for you here in Michigan for all these years, and he lets us beg, borrow, and steal it and apply it nationwide to our states around the country. Let me give you some examples. Tom is very, I think, very savvy when it comes to financial acumen. I know that the investing models you guys have done have been replicated for our national association for funds, just little things like that that, quite frankly, if you don't think about it, you don't think about it. Whether it's innovative ways to make sure that your voice is heard at the table. Whether it's task forces, committees, anything with government, we as prosecutors tend to kind of be insular, and we're so focused on putting out the fire that's raging in front of us that it's easy to forget that there's a whole host of armies waiting at the gate to kind of take down everything that we're doing and try to talk about why we shouldn't be doing what we're doing, and you've got to have those conversations. And Tom knows firsthand and is able to impart to many other people around the country the wisdom of saying, if you've got to be at the table, you've got to be in these committees, whether it's stuff like the Council of State Governments, the Pew Group, whatever the groups are that are coming in and talking about policy issues. He knows the importance of being part of that, and he imparts that to us in our conferences with the other executive directors around the country. We lean on him time and time again for his leadership with NHTSA, with the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and all the good things that traffic safety resource prosecutors do around the country. I will say this without equivocation. The Traffic Safety Resource Prosecutor program nationwide is extremely successful. It is a jewel of NHTSA, I believe. I think it is a very successful and highly touted program in most states. NHTSA enjoys a very, very good working relationship with prosecutors around the country that has positively, without a doubt, saved lives. Now, the thing about traffic safety and DWI enforcement is you just don't know how many lives you save because the lives are not in danger in the first place. But I have no doubt that countless lives have been saved because of that program. That program, I believe, is directly attributable to Tom Robertson's leadership, constant vigilance. He's our NHTSA committee chair. He was instrumental in securing that program for NAPC and replicating that nationwide so that every state virtually has a traffic safety resource prosecutor that does the great things that Ken's able to do here in Michigan and that is replicated in a nationwide network. So Tom Robertson, without a doubt, is indirectly, if not directly in some way, responsible for saving countless lives across the country because of his very, very valuable work in the NHTSA TSRP program. And those are things that he does effortlessly. When he comes to our meetings and he talks just very commonsensical in that Midwestern and fashion that he's so famous for, and of course he has a slight a Michigan twang and accent to it, but when he just talks so commonsensical about what needs to be done, the rest of us say, well, yeah, why the hell aren't I doing that? And then we steal his great ideas, and we go back home and go to our board and say, hey, I got a great idea. We need to do this, that, and the other. They say, hey, that's brilliant. I'm glad I hired you. And I say, oh, I'm glad I met Tom Robertson. And the truth of the matter is that we enjoy him as a brethren. We enjoy him as a fellow prosecutor coordinator, but we lean on him so much. And I think it's very important for us to be able to share with you exactly how valuable he is to the rest of the country. So I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit of that perspective, that insight with you. He's not only valuable to us, but he's extremely valuable to the National District Attorneys Association, where he sits on their executive committee for NAPC. And again, I have no doubt that the good turns that NDAA has taken in the very recent past are due in no small part to Tom Robertson's quiet, steady leadership in that avenue as well. And I think that the prosecution community as a whole nationwide owes Tom Robertson a tremendous debt of gratitude for his years of service, his knowledge, and his dedication. So, Tom, I want to say thank you. I want to say best wishes to you and your next phase of your life and your times in UND. From your friends at NAPC, we brought you a couple items. One is a road atlas, so that UND can find your way between here and Arizona and wherever else you might want to go along the way, and then a modest gift card to Barnes & Noble to do as much reading as your heart desires. So your friends at NAPC appreciate your many years of friendship and leadership and wish you the very best.
At this time, I'd ask that Bill Forsythe, the chairman of the PAC committee, return to the podium.
I couldn't wait to have me back, right? I'm going to keep this short. I promised I would. I would just like to reiterate what everyone has said about Tom. Like I said this morning at the business meeting, I've known Tom for a long, long time, and I was fortunate enough to be the president of the association and was one of the people that hired Tom as the executive director back in the day. And I personally had pretty high expectations for Tom because, having been the chief assistant of my office, I always believed that Tom deserved the right to run the association, and he did not disappoint. I think, as I say, I had high expectations for him, and he exceeded those. Like I said this morning, he's leaving this association and PAC in a better position than was when he came in, and I think that's the best testament you can have for someone. And for UND, I hope you have a happy and healthy retirement. And thank you on behalf of all of us. Tom, why don't you come on up?
Here.
And on behalf of PAM and PAC, we present you with this award.
This is joining the road gallery downstairs.
Next to the Sean.
And for those of you who might not know Tom, whole evening was a secret to him before he got here. The reason for that is that we didn't believe if we let him out of our sight that we could entice him to come back for this. In fact, we posted somebody at the door, Tom, to make sure you couldn't leave.
Sleek out.
And once again, I can't say thank you enough, Thomas.
And Tom, the podium is yours.
Okay. Okay. After all this, I guess I have to say a few things. It was nice of him to at least give me the afternoon to put some remarks together. How do you summarize 33 years at PAAM2 and 36 years of prosecution in a few minutes? So, here are my thoughts. 36 years ago, 1978, I'd been in private practice for about 6 months, and I said, this really sucks. So I called this organization I'd heard about called PAAM, talked to a very nice young lady there named Diane Bozak, and said, you got any jobs in prosecutors' offices? And they just happened to have one in Mount Pleasant, 20 miles north of my hometown where I grew up, Elma, Michigan. I went, interviewed, and I was hired. And I enjoyed immensely my 3 years working there in the wonders of the college town and everything that Central Michigan University brings to the prosecution table. Yeah, but then in 1981, I read in the Michigan Prosecutor about this job at PAAM. There was an opening for the assistant executive director, so I applied, and I was interviewed by the executive director and this distinguished gentleman from Ann Arbor by the name of William F. Delhay. Now, Bill Delhay is the person who's responsible for me getting the job at PAAM2. I know Gary had a part of that decision, but I know that it was Bill's influence in advocation on my behalf. And I got to know Bill Delhay a lot since then. Bill Delhay was a hero of mine. And to receive the Delhay Award from this organization is the greatest honor you can possibly give me. Thank you, thank you, thank you very much. But as we all know from our little photo history, I wasn't done then. In 1997, the director's position became open and I applied. And at that time, Attorney General Frank Kelly had another candidate that he favored for this particular position. But 3 other heroes of mine, Gary Walker, Bill Forsyth, and Mike Thomas, stood up to tremendous pressure and hired me. Thank you, gentlemen, for giving me the chance to run this organization for the past 17 years. Now, over 33 years, we've seen a lot of changes. Back when I started, drunk drivers were humorous. I mean, let's be real. Now we have zero tolerance. We have traffic safety resource prosecutors, as Jason mentioned, like Ken Stecker in every state across the country. And that's a change for the better. Domestic violence victims were discouraged, told to go home, back to their abuser, and if you wanted to prosecute them, come back and see us in 2 weeks. Now they're supported. We try and wrap them in a cocoon of safety and break the cycle of violence. A tremendous, tremendous change for the better. Victims were mere witnesses. Now they have constitutional rights and work cooperatively with us and us for them through the criminal prosecution. Again, a change for the better. Mag cards. Anybody remember mag card typewriters, or am I the only one? That was state of the art. Now we do everything through something called a cloud and remote access over satellite airways. But again, that's a change for the better. Remember when the media bill, your favorite subject, was maybe a half-hour news show daily and maybe 2 to 3 minutes on criminal justice, as opposed to the 24/7 cycle of blogs, tweets, Twitter, the universe, where no one can get a rest from the glaring eye of anybody with a cell phone who wants to now call themselves a reporter. I'm not sure that is a change for the better. But over those years, I've been very fortunate and blessed to work with all of you and to work with the best professional staff in the country. What success I've had is due greatly to the professionals that I work with in Lansing. And to just give you a little background, our office had the first child abuse training unit of its kind in the country, and that service is now provided by Julie Welch. We started that in 1994. Our office in Michigan had the first domestic violence, sexual assault, resource prosecutor training program and services in the country. We started that in 1996. That unit is now headed by Herb Tanner. Our office had the first Victim Rights Services unit on a statewide basis for prosecutors in the country. We started that office in 1996, and that unit is now headed by Roberta Haney-Jones. Our office had the third, we were a little laggard, TSRP in the country, despite my asking Mike's predecessor, Betty Mercer, for about 10 years to fund that, but she finally gave in and gave us the money to create the third traffic safety resource prosecutor program in a prosecutor coordinator's office in the country in 2000, and that's now headed by Ken Stecker. And our office is the first prosecution office, statewide services in the country, to have an elder justice resource prosecutor to work on the problems of elder abuse and financial exploitation. That office is headed by Catherine Emerson and has been in effect for the last 2 years. So when it comes to leadership and the services provided to you, we build on the foundation of those dedicated professionals who have taken the lead here and, as Jason indicated, develop model programs that are replicated across the country. Now, the folks I work with have already been asked to stand up twice, so I'm not going to ask you to stand up again, but I do want to give a special thank you to 3 employees who have been with me a long time. Joe Schuler. Joe was there at the beginning of the prosecution's case management system. Under his leadership for 29 years, it's grown and modernized and begun to move that process into the area of the cloud. Joe, thank you so much for your support, dedication, and the great work that you do. To Casey Steckelberg, who for 20 years has navigated the halls of justice in Lansing, or some would say injustice, depending on which hall you're in, making sure that your interests are heard, that your interests are protected, and that justice is improved. The laws of our state are better because of her dedicated service on your behalf. KC, thank you so much for everything you've done. And thank you to Marcia Beatty, the glue that holds our office together and has done so for 34 years. Now, my family seated right here will tell you that occasionally I can get just a little bit grumpy. And I can tell you that no matter how grumpy I start the day, when I come into the office and I get just one smile from that beautiful face, it fixes everything. Thank you so much. As Dorothy said to the Scarecrow, I think I'll miss you most of all. And it's so great, as we've noted, to have family here, spouses here supporting the prosecutors, and it's so great that I was able to share this special night with my family. I'm so proud of my children. My oldest son, Damon, is one of the most respected swim coaches in the state of Michigan. My son, Evan, is a dedicated computer professional for Jackson National Life Insurance Company. My lovely daughter-in-law, Bianca, is a professional analyst for the Department of Education for the state of Michigan. And my baby girl, Krista, that cute little thing in that picture back then, who traveled to Arizona with an unmarketable bachelor's degree, changed careers, took the initiative, put herself through nursing school, and is now an RN working in the largest hospital in Phoenix. I love you all. Most importantly, my high school sweetheart, my lovely bride, I've known for 43 years, married for 41. I love you dearly. I look forward to sharing the next 41 years as we begin the next stage of our blessed life together. Now, I mentioned earlier in this little presentation 4 special prosecutors who are my heroes. But let me say that everyone in this room, the prosecutors and the spouses who support them, are all heroes to me. Every day you face life at its most horrific. You struggle without adequate resources, and you do it without appreciation or applause, but you always do the right thing. Every day, you amaze me with your courage and your dedication to the cause of justice. For 33 years, I have had the greatest job in the world. For 33 years, I have been fortunate to work for you, my heroes. You are not only the best prosecutors in the world, but you are truly the best people in the world. Thank you dearly for tonight's honor and for the wonderful career you have given me.